If we have learned anything in the last 3 weeks, it is that we have an alarming assassination culture in our society. And yes, sorry, mainstream media, it is coming from one side. Because part of the country doesn't just hate us and hates our values, but they are actively wishing death upon us. And no, this is not some fringe ideology. This is even coming from Democrat politicians whose cries for murder and violence upon their political opponents is being ignored or actively excused by their own political party. And I'm sure you can guess who they are actively blaming for this type of rhetoric. Now, before we get into that important topic, I want to tell you guys that starting next week, we are going to have a new show schedule for The Brett Cooper Show. We will be releasing episodes now Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, so actually 4 days a week now, including that weekend release. I also want to send you guys over to brettcooper.com. Make sure you are signed up for the newsletter because we have some exciting announcements and updates that are coming. My team has been working super hard while I have been in the newborn blissful bubble trenches, whatever you want to call it. And so we are super excited to bring you all of those updates. Now, getting into this story, I want to bring it back to Charlie Kirk. Charlie was assassinated on September 10th. But what you might not know is that back in April, Charlie posted this tweet. He said, "Assassination culture is spreading on the left. 48% of liberals say that it would be at least somewhat justified to murder Elon Musk. 55% said the same thing about Donald Trump. In California, activists are naming ballot measures after Luigi Mangione." Now, you should also know that just a couple of weeks ago, Luigi Mangione's charges were dropped from a first-degree to a second-degree murder charge. And yes, people were celebrating and cheering in the streets. People were on camera talking about how they are in love with AI versions of Luigi. And again, this is a man that shot a healthcare CEO, a husband, and a father in broad daylight. And they are celebrating this. Like, these are the types of people that Charlie is talking about here. The left is being whipped into a violent frenzy. Any setback, whether losing an election or losing a court case, justifies a maximally violent response. This is the natural outgrowth of left-wing protest culture, tolerating violence and mayhem for years on end. The cowardice of local prosecutors and school officials have turned the left into a ticking time bomb. Now, this tweet went viral quickly after Charlie's assassination for a really important reason, because reading this genuinely gives me chills, because Charlie was talking about the thing that would inevitably take his life. And this is just so heartbreaking to go back and read, because the ticking time bomb that he was talking about went off on September 10th, and it has not stopped. Because the last 3 weeks have been an incredibly disgusting, horrifying display of violence and this exact assassination culture that Charlie was tweeting about. Because within days of his assassination, a bomb was lit, but failed to go off under a Fox News van in Utah that was covering Charlie's assassination. And you can see that right here. 2 men have now been arrested for this. Then, just a couple days later, there was a bomb threat at RFK Jr.'s home. Just days later, a 23-year-old man opened fire at a New Hampshire country club while screaming "Free Palestine." And of course, they're still saying that there is no political motive. They have no idea why he would have done this. I'm sorry. The political motive is right there. Eyewitnesses have given you that motive. Now, just a couple days later, after that, again, we just have bing, bang, boom right after each other. A man shot into a local ABC News building, allegedly in protest of Kimmel being taken off the air. And he left a note warning that Trump officials would be next. This is all within 10 days of Charlie's assassination. Then just 2 days after that, another man shot into an ICE facility in Dallas, killing 2 detainees, although officials have said that he was probably aiming at ICE officials, considering that the bullets he left on the scene after killing himself were engraved with anti-ICE. Just take a listen to this video.
Early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature.
And then here are the bullets in question. This was posted by Kash Patel quickly after the event took place. Now, that was not the only attack on ICE officials, because just this weekend, DHS agents patrolling in Chicago were ambushed and boxed in by 10 different cars with one of the attackers holding up a semi-automatic weapon. Now, the agents obviously opened fire because they were being ambushed, they were about to be attacked, and one of the drivers who was ambushing them was shot. And of course, this is how the mainstream media is covering it. If you Google this story, it says Border Patrol agents shoot armed woman, federal agents shoot woman in Chicago neighborhood, protester shot in Chicago. So that's the story that you're running with. The DHS agents are just open firing into crowds of people? No. They were being ambushed. And I just want to say, with how awful the news is right now, with everything that we have seen and witnessed over the last 3 weeks, it is more important than ever, in my opinion, to focus on your family and your communities, and Good Ranchers wants to help you do that. This fall, Good Ranchers is challenging America to come back to the dinner table. Every Thursday through Thanksgiving, Good Ranchers wants you to take a pause and share a meal with the people that you love. And here's the best part. Every week, one lucky table will win a free Thanksgiving ham from Good Ranchers for just sharing a photo of your Thursday night dinner. All you have to do is post a picture of your dinner on your Instagram story, use the hashtag back to the table, and tag Good Ranchers. And if gathering once a week just feels impossible due to everything going on in your life and the world, that is where Good Ranchers can help. Their meat is high quality, it's 100% American, it's raised on local farms, and it's delivered right to your door. Plus, the cuts come pre-portioned and triple trimmed, meaning that you will spend less time prepping and more time eating with the people that you love. Thousands of Cooper Troopers have already made the switch to Good Ranchers over the last 3.5 years, and once you experience the quality and convenience of Good Ranchers, you will understand why, and you will never go back. Just visit goodranchers.com to start your subscription and shop America's best meat today. Make sure to use code BRETT to get $40 off plus free meat for life. Again, that is code BRETT at checkout for $40 off and free meat for the life of your subscription. And you might be thinking, okay, well, what is causing all of this violence? It is the rhetoric from activists and politicians on the left. It is people saying that we are fascists. It's people calling us Nazis. It's saying that we need to be eradicated because of our beliefs. So after years and years of that kind of dialogue, of that kind of violent name-calling, no wonder this is happening. Like, genuinely. Like, it is not surprising. But what is possibly even more alarming is that this type of violence, this rhetoric, this behavior is, again, like I said, not just coming from fringe protesters or angry basement dwellers who post on Blue Sky about hating right-wingers. No, it is coming from mainstream Democratic politicians, people who are propped up and supported by the Democrat Party. And that is what we saw take place this weekend in Virginia. The Democrat candidate for Attorney General in Virginia, whose name is Jay Jones, has been exposed as of this weekend for texts where he wished death upon the former Virginia GOP House Speaker, Todd Gilbert, and his family. Now, all of this took place back in 2022, but because of the events of the last 3 weeks, I think that these texts are incredibly relevant. And obviously the media thought so as well, because this is what Jay Jones was saying about his opponent. He was texting a colleague of his who was also a Republican, and he said, "If those guys die before me," he's talking about conservatives, "I will go to their funerals to piss on their graves. Send them out awash in something." And his friend responds and says, "Jay Jones." And he said, 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time. Now his friend responds and says, "Jay, please stop." And he goes, "LOL. Okay. His friend responds and says, "It really bothers me when you talk about hurting people or wishing death upon them." Now, allegedly, as the story goes, this friend then called Jay to talk about this conversation. And on that phone call, Jay dug his heels in even more. He was not joking about any of this. He then said on the phone that he wished Todd's wife, Jennifer, would watch their children die in her arms so that Todd would change his opinion on policy. When they got off the phone, when he was pushed on this via text again, this is how he responded. His friend said, "You weren't simply asking questions and you know it." And he said, "I genuinely was. I wasn't attacking you. I was trying to understand your logic." He said, "You weren't trying to understand. You were talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die." And he said, "Yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy." So he is saying this man's children, his family, deserves to die because that is the only way that he will change his opinions to mirror mine. And at the end of the day, me, Jay Jones, that is all I care about. But he doesn't stop there. The texts continue. And he said, "I asked you point blank more than 3 times and you dug in that you meant it. I am honestly questioning a lot today." And Jay responds and says, "I mean, do I think that Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they're breeding little fascists? Yes." So because Jay Jones disagrees with his political opponent, the former GOP House Speaker of Virginia, this man's innocent children who are under the age of 10 or were under the age of 10 at the time, they deserve to die. To send a message to a father that Jay Jones disagrees with. Now, obviously, everything that we just read is disgusting enough as it is. That is horrifying. But also, I say that it's horrifying, and yet we live in a world where I see this type of rhetoric every single day online, as I am sure that you do. And that's disgusting. But what is even more disgusting, what is even more reprehensible, is that Jay Jones and the Democrats have now responded in the most insane way possible. I mean, all of this is just a complete disregard for human life. Now, thankfully, my friends over at Preborn actually value and work to protect life. By providing ultrasounds, resources, and financial support to mothers in crisis, Preborn doubles the chance that a mom will choose life. This year alone, over 38,000 babies have been rescued through Preborn's work, but they don't just stop at ultrasounds. Preborn truly cares for the mothers that they work with, providing counseling, classes, and ongoing financial support for up to 2 years after the baby is born. Support that makes motherhood possible. You can be the hero in a mom's story by giving $28 to sponsor an ultrasound, giving her a chance to see her baby and choose life. Just go to preborn.com/Brett, that is preborn.com/Brett, to get started and give a gift that could possibly save a life. And if you decided to keep your children and you need a little bit more room at home, then you should call my friends over at Fellowship Home Loans, who are making home ownership a reality. And I get it, that often feels impossible in our current world. Prices keep climbing, interest rates are not dropping quickly enough, and it often feels like you'll just never catch up. I know that that is what my generation is thinking right now, and that is why I trust Fellowship Home Loans. Mike and Brian, the owners, are about getting you in sooner, not someday. They have smart tools like low down payments, first-time homeowner loans, seller concessions, and temporary rate buydowns, things that make homeownership doable right now. And if you already own a home, you could pull out your equity in mere days with some of their programs. That is money for paying off debt, starting a business, or just breathing a little easier in our current economy. Just go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Brett and get a $500 credit at closing. Terms apply. See site for details. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending by the book. Disclaimer, Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 189382. Now, Jay Jones, to his credit, he did apologize. He apparently called the Gilberts and took accountability for these horrifying texts that he sent in 2022, but immediately after his quote-unquote apology, he blame shifted and started talking about Trump and the Trump-controlled media and his Republican opponent, who is currently running against him for Virginia AG. And in his statement after his quote-unquote apology, he said, "Like all people, I've sent text messages that I regret." Okay, well, no, I actually don't think that all of us have sent texts wishing death upon people we disagree with. I think that that actually might be something that is unique to you, Jay Jones. But he goes on and says, "I believe that violent rhetoric has no place in our politics." I mean, I'm laughing because that is so insane based on what we just read. Obviously, you don't believe that, Jay Jones. Obviously. So why are you even pretending? But it gets better. He said, "Let's be clear about what is happening in the attorney general race right now. Jason Miyares, who is the incumbent who is running against Jay Jones, is dropping smears through Trump-controlled media organizations to assault my character and rescue his desperate campaign." He's dropping smears. I'm sorry, I would think that smears are lies and slander. Using your own words against you? Sorry, I think that's just honest. I think that's fair game at this point. You acknowledge that you sent those texts, releasing those to the public, allowing the public to understand who they could possibly be voting for. It's not smears. That's just good journalism. That's just putting everything out for people to assess their options, to assess their choices, Jay. He goes on and he says, "This is a strategy that ensures that Jason will continue to be accountable to Donald Trump, not the people of Virginia. This race is about whether Trump can control Virginia or Virginians control Virginia." How did you even get to this point? Do you think that Donald Trump is calling up Jason saying, "You need to come up with some texts. You need to find some dirt"? I don't think that Trump knew about these texts. You did this all on your own, buddy. By wishing death against your political opponent, you put yourself in this situation. This is not Trump's fault. Trump cannot be the scapegoat to every single one of your issues. Trump cannot be the scapegoat to every single problem that our society is facing. The moral problems that our society is facing. And you're saying, what this race in Virginia is actually about. I actually agree that it's not just about Attorney General. I actually think that this race in Virginia is now about good versus evil, especially when your party, the Democrats, are still fully behind you. This is the statement that the Virginia Beach Democrats put out in support of Jay Jones after these texts came out. They said, "We reaffirm our full support of Jay Jones for Attorney General. We are lined up, 10 toes down, ready to organize, mobilize, and deliver votes for Jay in our entire Democratic ticket. Recent press may have spotlighted past mistakes, may, possibly. We say, let those without sin cast the first stone. Okay, so now you care about God. Now you care about Christ and what the Bible says. Great, thank you, Democrats. Jay Jones has taken responsibility, apologized, and shown that he is committed to serving with integrity and accountability that his public record already shows. Virginians deserve a leader who learns, grows, and stands for everyday people, and Jay is that leader. Now, what is even more hysterical about this entire situation is that Jay Jones was arrested a few years ago for reckless driving. And instead of being put in prison, instead of going to jail for this reckless driving, he was given, I believe it was 500 plus hours of community service, and he did over half of those hours working at his own PAC for his own campaign. And this is a man that is running for Attorney General, the highest law enforcement individual in the state. Like, it's laughable. Like, every single part of the situation is so disgustingly laughable. It then goes on and says, Jay Jones is a stark contrast to Jason Miyares in every way. In his tenure, Jason has failed to stand up for Virginia families' concerns or values. He has not defended women's reproductive rights, workers' rights, or protected the hundreds of thousands of Virginians who are on the verge of losing access to their healthcare benefits and service providers. Well, you know what? Jason also didn't wish death upon his political opponent. So I think he has that above Jay Jones. Guys, this is the vile and soulless behavior that is making up the modern Democratic Party. And at this point, turning a blind eye is unfortunately expected from the party whose voters have cheered and supported such violence, who went on TikTok and X and Blue Sky and Instagram and Facebook and cheered in celebration at the assassination of Charlie Kirk, a good man who truly just wanted to unite America, who truly, in every single one of his debates, sought to understand his opponent, sought to find a place where they would agree, who wanted the best for every single person that he interacted with, even if he knew that you hated him, even if you vehemently disagreed with every single one of his values. He wanted the best for you. And they cheered for this man's murder. So no, I'm not surprised that Virginia's Democratic Party is turning a blind eye. Now, I also want to say that I don't think this kind of rhetoric or violence is accidental right now. I'm not saying that everything that we've seen over the last 3 weeks is completely coordinated, but I do think that there is an intentional attempt to breed chaos and division under the Trump administration, and that the Democrats are using this to go against Trump so that they can turn around and say, actually, kind of like Jay Jones did, actually, this is all Trump's fault. This is why Trump needs to be out of office. This is why conservatives are so awful, because this is happening under the Trump administration, which is already being said by people like Destiny. And you guys know how I feel about the streamer Destiny, but let's just listen to what he said on a recent appearance on Piers Morgan's show.
I think that the only way this country moves forward into a better world is when conservatives can finally realize that they need to turn the temperature down on their side. We are 10 years into whatever this Trump madness is, and there is not a single mainstream conservative that will call for a lowering of the temperature on their side. I think that liberals need to wake up and finally realize that if they're not willing to do it, it will never come down. If you wanted Charlie Kirk to be alive, Donald Trump shouldn't have been president for the second term. Every time he's in office, this happens. People joked about when Biden came in, it was so boring, nothing was going on. 7 out of 10 of the largest protests in American history have happened under Donald Trump.
So it's all Trump's fault. Every part of this is Trump's fault. But of course, it's not the actions of conservatives. Conservatives are not the ones that are shooting ICE officials. Conservatives are not the ones who are wishing death upon our political opponents. Conservatives are not the ones that are shooting up country clubs, that are setting governors' homes on fire while their children are inside. We're not doing that. That is the left. You cannot blame that on Donald Trump. I mean, Destiny, truly, like, I didn't believe that you could stoop any lower, and yet you did. Like, Trump is not responsible for the mental illness and the rhetoric of extremists in your political party. Trump is not responsible for your inability to have civil disagreements, to understand that you live in a country where sometimes people are not going to agree with every single one of your values, and that sometimes a different political party is going to be in power, and you have to learn how to cope with that. Like, that is not Trump's fault. That is on the left, and I'm sorry, but we will never be like you. If you made it all the way to the end of this episode, thank you so much for watching. I had so much fun putting it together, and I hope that you enjoyed it too. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because this channel only exists because of you. And if you're in the mood for more, I've got even more episodes right here that I think you'll love.